Hi there. Thanks for having me. So I'm just going to give you a brief Tezos presentation and hopefully get a bit of a Q&A after that. I'm sorry, I don't know the audience. It's weird to do this presentation remotely. I wish I could be here in Korea. So I'm just going to present some of the stuff happening in the Tezos ecosystem. What is Tezos? Try to have a general sort of presentation. So what is Tezos? It's a security-focused, upgradable, and energy-efficient proof-of-stake blockchain. And it's decentralized. It's supported by a global community of validators, developers, scientists, artists, and more. So Tezos is quite big. And the main thing that people know about Tezos, or I think that is characteristic, is that it's very easy to upgrade. It's a blockchain that has upgraded a lot in the past and that keeps upgrading about every 3 months. And it does that without hard forks. So it can keep up with innovation. So why Tezos? Why consider, if you're a developer, why consider building on Tezos? Well, the first thing is that we take a different approach to securities that a lot of smart contract platforms take. And we really try to have a level of tooling that is appropriate for institutions. So if you want to have applications with lots of value at stake, there are techniques such as formal verification, for example, and we've invested in the toolings for these applications. So I think it's quite attractive when you see all the DeFi hacks happening all the time to have this tooling. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that just because you build a contract on Tezos is going to be safe, right? You know, if you write a bad contract, it's a bad contract. But there's really good tooling to ensure these properties. Second point, we have an efficient algorithm for proof of stake, and we've been running in proof of stake from day one. We've not promised proof of stake and then not delivered. No, it's been there from the beginning, and that has attracted a lot of use cases. I'll talk a little bit about the NFT use cases, but a lot of NFT artists are concerned about environmental impact of blockchains like Ethereum, and so they've been attracted to Tezos for that reason. And I think it's been, part of our brand now, this energy efficiency aspect. So yes, there are other proof of stake blockchains, but I think in the psyche we're more associated with that than others. And so we've had NFT marketplaces as a result really sprout on Tezos. Smaller smart contracts. So like I said, we have this tooling for verifying the contracts. But also, and again, this is one of the most important points in Tezos, I would say, it's this governance mechanism. So in other blockchains, you either have the decision that you're never going to change it. That's a Bitcoin approach. The rules of Bitcoin are set in stone, and we can't change them because if anyone had the power to change them, then Bitcoin would be broken. There's another approach to that, which is to say, oh well, the developers will have the powers. The developers will just write a new version, and then everyone has to upgrade and run the new version. So that's the hard fork approach. And we take a different route, which is a governance approach. So on Tezos, if you want to change a network, it's possible. Anyone can propose. So any developer can come in and say, I propose we change the protocol this way. So anyone can make a proposal on a network. And then the holder of Tez can vote on whether or not the proposal is going to be accepted or rejected. So it's a participatory governance model. It's not top down. It's really from the whole community to accept and propose upgrades. And I think that gives a project a certain amount of longevity. That's why we say it's built to last. It's built to last because it has the potential of keeping up with all the technological innovation. So if you think that the technological innovation is done in this space, that nothing new is ever going to be invented, then that's fine. You don't need an upgradable blockchain. But if you think new things are going to be invented and you don't want your application jumping from one blockchain to another, I think Tezos is a great home for that. So with respect to these upgrades, historically they've been named after ancient cities. So we had Athens, Babylon, it's the alphabet, Carthage, Delphi, Edo, Florence, Granada. That's just since 2008, that's just since like mid 2018. So just in the past 3 years, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 upgrades. And we have an 8th upgrade coming, which will start with the letter H. I don't think we've had Korean cities yet, but I'm looking forward to that. And each upgrade has brought small things. So Athens, very first upgrade was very small. We were just playing with some constants, changing a few things, but gradually we've been changing different things. So one aspect of Tezos which has improved continuously over the past 3 years has been the consensus algorithm. We started with a fairly simple proof of stake algorithm for Tezos called EMI, and we've been refining it. So with EMI Plus, with EMI Star, and that has allowed EMI to become more and more stable and reach finality ever and ever faster. So the latest version of EMI, EMI Star, just came in the Granada upgrade, which activated last month. Another work that we've done is improve the speed of the smart contract interpreter. So the Tezos smart contract system is not based on a assembly language. Assembly language is probably the most popular choice for smart contracts today. You have the EVM, which is an assembly language. A lot of blockchains are making the choice of using WASM as an assembly blockchain, as an assembly for their smart contracts. You have also more exotic choices like eBPF for Solana. We took the choice of having a high-level language, which is also a little bit the choice made in Bitcoin. And the reason for that is it's more work on the part of the interpreter, but it can allow you to go faster because you don't have as much overhead in terms of gas monitoring. So there's performance benefits in doing so. But when we launched, the chain was really, really focused just on the security of the interpreter. It had to be very, very, very safe because it was so new. And as the code matured, the focus was turned towards okay, now that we have a very stable base for this smart contract language, let's make it faster and faster and faster. And we've gained about 2 orders of magnitude in speed in the smart contract language over these different upgrades. And starting this gas limits changes started in Athens. And in Granada, just like recently, we had a 3 to 5x reduction in gas consumption per contract call. It depends on the contract call, but on average, that's what it's been. So it's been a lot of improvements on this side. And I think this was part of the design philosophy. Start with very conservative constants and then gradually relax them as the network matures. That's what we mean by security focused. And security is a process. It's not a product. It's something that you strive for. And one way to achieve it is having this conservative upgrade process. Like I said, it's a global network of validators. So this is just like a small sample of some validators and nodes running on a Tezos network. It's really everywhere in the world. There's of course big presence in North America, Europe, but also Asia. We have some good regional presence there. And not only do these people secure this network, but they also help determine its future by voting on the upgrades. So that's a little cheeky slide, but so recently the Tezos Foundation, which is a nonprofit based in Switzerland and who's helping foster the Tezos ecosystem, partner with Red Bull Racing, and Red Bull Racing is putting out NFTs of its sports memorabilia on the Tezos blockchain. So we think that evolution is our superpower, and it's been working quite well actually. So if you look at just over the past year, we used to have a very low level of contract calls on the Tezos blockchain, and I would say like almost every L1. You launch an L1, it's hard to get traction initially. You don't have like the network effects and all of that, and so we had a very flat level until early this year. And this is not transactions because, of course, with the bull market in this year, you see a lot more transactions on every blockchain, but a lot of this is trading related. These are smart contract calls. So this is people interacting with applications, not just transactions. So that's been growing exponentially. When the slide was made, the numbers for August were not really ready yet, but the numbers for August has smashed 3 million. They smashed the records for like July and June. So months after months, we're making new highs in terms of smart contract calls. In terms of transaction volume, like just number of transactions, we're doing between a quarter and a third of Ethereum daily transaction. So what's funny is that you don't hear people talk about Tezos as much. I would say on social media, the presence of Tezos is actually quite small. In terms of actual usage of the chain, we're probably one of the most used chain out there. The consumed gas, so that's an interesting metric. So you can see that the consumed gas tracks the the smart contract interaction volume. They've been both growing exponentially, but you'll see like, oh, what happened in August? The gas is much lower. Well, what happened is there were a lot of improvements to gas consumption in the Granada upgrade. And so even though the amount of transactions to smart contracts is growing exponentially, the gas is keeping in check because the interpreter keeps improving. And I think that's part of the philosophy. It's like, you don't want to come out and say like, oh, we've overbuilt this capacity for something we don't need. But as the network grows, the network can adapt and become capable of handling more load. And that's what we've been doing, which has allowed the network to offer low transaction fees. So yeah, that was thanks to the Granada upgrade, but of course also the entire ecosystem that make it happen. There's a lot that goes in an upgrade. Of course, there's programming the upgrade itself, is changing the protocol. It's also testing the protocol. It's also the entire tooling around the ecosystem. So it's people writing block explorers. It involves the coordination of hundreds of people when there's an upgrade that happens on a chain. And Tezos as a network is able to do that, every 3 months, which I think is a pace that's not matched anywhere in the space. Well, one thing I find super interesting in Granada is that historically, the upgrades to the Tezos network have been primarily pure technologically related. So it was more smart contracts, more transactions per second, better. There's a new thing introduced called liquidity baking. And that's a decentralized way to create liquidity for Tez, which is the cryptocurrency of the Tezos network. And so you may be familiar with this because we've seen it in a lot of DeFi projects, which have this liquidity mining or farming abilities. But in general, in a DeFi project, it's really based on distribution. You want to launch some sort of token and you say, sure, the tokens will go to whoever provides liquidity for the token. Here you'll see these giant APIs, but it's just like for distribution. Here it's quite different. We're doing it at an L1 level, and I don't think it's ever been done for an L1. So the way we did this is by having an AMM, constant product curve similar to Uniswap between Tez and TZBTC. And TZBTC is just a wrapped Bitcoin that exists on Tezos. You're probably familiar with wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum. Wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum has a single custodian, which is BitGo. A nice thing about TZBTC is that it's a consortium of reputable custodian across the world. So it's a 3 out of 5 multi-sig is better than 1 out of 1 multi-sig. And so the protocol creates inflation, and just a tiny bit of inflation, like 0.15% over 6 months, and pays this subsidy, which is very small in terms of inflation, but can be very big in terms of the pool of liquidity. And so that creates liquidity for Tez. What I think is super interesting for this is that doing this type of things without on-chain governance is very hard. If you look at upgrades on the Ethereum network, for example, like EIP 1559, even upgrades which are clearly good for the network are very hard to get through with hard forks, because as soon as they touch the monetary policy, people start saying like, oh, well, like who's being made better off, who's not being made better off. And it ends up being a proof of social media. It ends up like who's more loud, who has more clout. The nice thing is that if you wanted to do this on any blockchain, you would have a lot of people complain and say, oh, we can't do this, and so on and so forth. And you can have as many discussions as you want, as much talk as you want. But at the end of the day, how are you going to decide? And if you have a clear procedure, a clear on-chain governance procedure, what you build is legitimacy. And legitimacy is the most important thing for a blockchain. That's what gives any cryptocurrency their value, because it's all intangible. When all you have is open source code and intangible assets, what makes something valuable is the fact that, yes, that's the canonical version. That's legitimate. Legitimacy is one of the hardest things to obtain. And if you look at all the fork wars, people building forks, it's almost always been about legitimacy. So being able to legitimize small amounts of inflation in order to pay for public good provision like liquidity is, I think, one of the killer features of on-chain governance. So it's not just about keeping up with technology, but it's also about the provision of public goods. Like I mentioned, we've had a growing NFT ecosystem. So one of the main use of smart contracts on Tezos has been this NFT. So we have one-off in the music space, Hink & Nunk, which is the foremost art marketplace today across all blockchains. Interpop, which is focused on comic and fandom. I encourage you to check it out. The comics are free to read on interpop.io. And they're really good. You can buy the NFT of the comic, but even if you don't want to own the NFT, you can read the comic and really check them out. Obfuscated.com, which is a new and upcoming NFT exchange platform. We've had a bunch of games like Pixel Quotas, Dystopia, and there's a lot of those among the bigger names. There's two F1 teams which are using Tezos to issue NFTs. They haven't launched yet, but they're building, and they've announced that they're building on Tezos, and they bear the Tezos logo on their cars, and that's Red Bull Racing and McLaren Racing. Part of the reasons why this has been a big attraction for NFTs on Tezos has been the impetus from artists and concerns around the impact of proof of work blockchain on the CO2 emissions. And so one small infographics that was widely shared and widely liked and disliked. It was a very controversial infographics. I put it here because I just love the image of the bear. It looks so neat. But it was saying, look, if you mint an NFT on a leading proof of work chain, the equivalent amount of emission is going to be around like the weight of a polar bear of CO2. And if you do it on Tezos, it's about the weight of like a few snowflakes on the nose of the polar bear. People have loved this and people have hated it. And it's been very widely shared, but I think it was a brilliant image. DeFi ecosystem. So it's not just about NFT. We also have a thriving DeFi ecosystem. I think we were a little late to this ecosystem, but it's like been rebounding. There's an AMM like KeepYourSwap, for example, farming with plenty. Other stablecoin. There's a project called Colibri. There's another project called Youths. There's also a more traditional stablecoin called Lug, which was created by a chain of supermarkets. It's a global chain of supermarket. I know them from France, but also in South America and a few places called Casino. We have Wrap, which is a bridge between Ethereum and Tezos, so you can bridge any Ethereum assets that you want to trade, put it on Tezos, and then you can trade them for pennies, as opposed to spending $100 per transaction. So growing DeFi ecosystem on a Tezos chain, albeit starting a bit late. And it's not just about funny NFTs and DeFi. There's also some serious institutional players looking at Tezos. So there's been CBDC experiments with the Banque de France, and also projects with PSA Group, Ubisoft, Exaion, which is a innovation branch of EDF, French electricity provider, Société Générale, even the French Gendarmerie, which is a branch of the French army. He's using Tezos. It's not just France. I promise, but I could say a lot of the corporate use cases have been France focused. There's a large development team in France, and I think that's part of why. Growing wallet ecosystem. There's a lot of cool wallets if you want to be using Tezos. Some of the most popular ones are Kukai, Temple, which is Temple is a MetaMask-like type of wallet for Tezos that you can put in your browser. Galleon and Umami, which is a newcomer. So check them out. And it's been growing about 4% month over month, with over 1.5 million funded wallets in the Tezos ecosystem. So I think it has pretty good distribution. Developing with Tezos, this being a developers conference. So the culture is around functional programming roots. You don't have to be a functional programmer to program on Tezos, but we do attract a lot of functional programming types. And the nice thing is that it helps reduce unnoticed bugs. It helps with formal verification. So I think that the mindset of functional programming and a security-first mindset are actually a good fit for each other. We have several languages, so there's sometimes some misconception. People think that, Tezos, you have to do OCaml, right? No. So, or Mikkelsen. Mikkelsen is just a virtual machine. You can program on Tezos using any language, like you can use SmartPy, which is based on Python. You can use LIGO, which has a JavaScript syntax, so like you can use JS LIGO, for example. So you can essentially, if you know how to write JavaScript and TypeScript, you know how to write smart contracts on Tezos. So I encourage you to check those out. SmartPy and LIGO, they both have JavaScript syntaxes as well. There's a bunch of tools. I don't really have time to go into all of this, but there's a good developer portal on Tezos.com with all of this information. Further reading, so the developer portal, Tezos.com/developer portal, some Tezos projects at tezosprojects.com. If you want to learn about the nonprofits that in Switzerland, the Tezos Foundation, it's tezos.foundation. And a cool website that has a bunch of news. It's run by some community members, and it has always really good up-to-date information. I learned stuff about Tezos by going on XTZ News, so xtz.news. Thank you so much for watching. If you want more information about Tezos, I tend to retweet a lot of stuff from the ecosystem, so follow me on Twitter @ArthurB, and hopefully we have time for some Q&A. The reevaluation. So I'm not entirely sure I understand the question. There was recently in a bill in the U.S. Congress, for example, which focused on who is designated a broker under tax law, and for a while they had an amendment where somehow they would exclude proof of work validator but not proof of stake validator. But that amendment was widely reviled, everyone denounced it, and then even the people who wrote it said like, oh, we didn't mean just proof of work, we were just confused. So I don't think there's like a specific attack on proof of stake. In general, the policy has been somewhat neutral to it. I would say that the policy has been in general favorable to incumbents, and a lot of incumbents have proof of work. And so it might look like favoring proof of work, but I think it's a matter of mostly favoring incumbents over newcomers than anything. There's interesting policy groups around proof of stake. So for example, the Proof of Stake Alliance, POSA, which is doing interesting work, including in the taxation of proof of stake and doing policy on these fronts. So, I'm mostly a technical person, so I have to take an interest in this because of the industry I'm in, but I'm also not an expert in it, and I like to defer to the experts on this matter. Of course, the United States is not the center of the world. There are many other countries, and they have their own policy. I do think a lot of people tend to follow the lead sometimes of the US, and so US policy matters. And I encourage people to look at places like Coin Center, for example, which is doing a great job in educating lawmakers on policy and blockchains. Yes, I can. So it would get pretty technical and it would not be super interesting, but I can give you a sketch of the reasons. So we have an interpreter, right? It's an interpreted language, and a lot of the consumption of a lot of the time that the interpreter spends is simply actually accounting for gas. So it's saying like, okay, how much gas have you spent? How much gas have you spent? It seems stupid because you're just adding to an integer. But if all you're doing is shuffling around memory cells and you're like doing an addition every single time, that's overhead. And so a lot of the early optimizations were around how to avoid doing all of these gas monitoring operation or not doing as many of them. I think the latest one that saves a lot is a rewrite of the interpreter so that it works in continuation passing style, as opposed to using recursive calls. And so I think it saves us like having stacked calls on a machine. So it's a rather technical thing that I wouldn't be able to go into a lot of details in a short time, but it's mostly like optimization of the interpreter. There's no fundamental paradigm shift. The thing that really I think the thing I want to drive home is that because it's a VM, but it's a higher level VM than you'd have typically. It's higher in assembly, which means you can have large operation and just have a gas cost for the entire operation. So in theory, it has this benefit because you're not doing as much gas accounting, and I think we can keep pushing the performance quite a bit. we're not going to get to orders of magnitude. Maybe we have an order of magnitude left to get an interpreter. And after that, you have to look at other scaling solutions like rollups, sharding, or this type of techniques. For smart contracts in general, or for smart contracts in Tezos, I think one of the initial boosts for smart contracts in Tezos was from the NFT space, followed by DeFi. For smart contracts in general, I think it's a cool tool. It's programmable money. You have programmable money in Bitcoin, but it's fairly limited. What you can do with Bitcoin script, unfortunately, you don't have this rich statefulness that you can have with smart contracts. And I think, like being able to create new assets was one of the first killer use cases for smart contracts. I think a lot of people initially envisioned that smart contract would be, agreements, almost like two-party agreements saying like, okay, I will do this and you will do that. And then we agree to the conditions and, almost like a swap agreement. And we've actually seen very few of those. Most of the successful smart contracts have been around asset creation. And some of the more interesting ones that I see today are around building collateralized derivatives systems like stable coins, for example. So that I think is, or perpetuals, that I think is like a really neat innovation of the smart contract system. Yeah, absolutely. And I think what, even though we live in in a remote world and we have remote conferences and videos, all that, I do think I need to be present locally. You need to be there. You need to have the physical and human contacts. I think like bringing core development teams is a good way to do that. And so, for example, in the core development of Tezos, there are different teams working on it. It's not a single team. One of the teams working on the core development of Tezos, Dai Lambda, is located in Japan, for example. And we've had smart contract developers also in Korea. Also, I think we should strive to have more of a presence in the region. There's a group in Singapore called TZ APAC, which has been working also in the region, trying to attract projects to the ecosystem and train developers. So they're just getting started, but I think we can do more. And to answer directly the question, have a presence. Create teams locally that contributes to the smart contract that are available on Tezos or to the core protocol itself. Meetups, presence. It's been hard in a time of COVID. I visited Korea twice, I visited Korea twice in just 2 years before COVID, and I haven't been in a while. And that's I think I'll be able to resume the travel in a couple of months, hopefully when the lockdown craziness ends.